So let me ask you this. After, and everyone on here probably knows who Hormozi is, Alex Hormozi, the founder of, all of that, like the gym launch and everything, the creator, whatever. But what does he do, or what did he do as a CEO that you're still trying to figure out how to get to that point?
So everyone has different skill sets. He is the best in the world, in my opinion. And I think the proof is there because there's going to be some stuff coming out with acquisition.com pretty soon that's going to blow people's minds, which is the company that he founded after right before he sold GymLaunch and Prestige Labs. He is the best in the world, in my opinion, at simply creating value and cash. And he's the best at educating people on business. And so the core root of that is his ability to influence people. And his influence level, if we go a 1 out of 10, is like a 10. Truly is. And what's funny is a lot of people will see who he is online and they'll just see him on YouTube or anything like that. Let me just tell you right now, he's better in person. And like the reason is like he's a bro. He's a gym bro. Like he's also a genius. Like he graduated from Vanderbilt in 3 years. He was an editor for his high school paper, right? He has been writing since he was in middle school. He's super smart, but he also is a gym bro and he gets people. I think for me, I am from an influence standpoint, I'm well below that. And so if there were differences there, I am more of a mix between Alex and Layla. Layla is truly the operator and CEO. So Alex is like think of him as like the chief revenue officer. He's the guy. If you want to create revenue, he's the guy. He can go 0 to 1 and then help scale, right? And he can communicate it really, really well, break down complex problems into simple things and create focus. Layla is the one to take that and then get the team behind her, build the right team, build the right operations and the systems, and make it actually happen. And so I had an amazing opportunity, and all of it, the credit is to all the people who taught me. Like, this is not like anything that I can just say that is mine. I had a chance to sit with Alex every day for years. I still text with him daily. Chance to sit with Layla and follow her for years, and we talk often. And I got to learn from them. And as they're going through and making mistakes and wins, we get to look through those and figure out together what's working, what's not. And I think I'm a good mix between the two. And I realized quickly that when I became CEO, I didn't have to be Alex. And that was really important for me because I tried to be and I thought I had to be for a little bit. And that's a huge mistake. I just need to be me and I just need to continue to grow.
So what do you think you do better?
I manage people. Uh, I manage relationships within the company. I think better.
Why?
This is really hard because Alex is like my best friend. So it's hard to put better or not, right? Because
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's still that aspect. And I want to be very clear. This is not a negative. This is strengths. We're talking about
Yeah,
strengths.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I think an example of this is when I became CEO on Thanksgiving, I reached out to every single person in the company and I sent them a personal, it's small. I sent every single person a Slack. And I was just like, this is actually before I became CEO. I was GM and I sent every person across all the portfolios because I knew I was going to move into that role. And I just sent everyone just a simple personalized message to each one individually, thanking them, telling them how grateful I was and how I am just, it was personalized to them with their effort, their work, who they are, all that stuff. And I spent the time on Thanksgiving morning and I just did that, sent like 70 something or 60 something messages. And I remember I didn't tell anybody. And then it got word to Alex like the next week. And he's like, that's why you're going to be a better CEO than me. And I guess that's probably the best example of it. And it's something I still have to remind myself because I don't naturally want to do it. I didn't wake up being like, I want to go do this. I was like, it's the right thing to do. And I need to do this.
Mm. Thoughtfulness. You're a very thoughtful person.
Yeah. And Alex is too, though. I think it just comes off in different ways, right? I just like Alex is very thoughtful. Like, man, I'll get a text from him randomly sometimes and he'll just be like, hey, man, just thinking about you and just want you to let you know you're doing a great job. Right. Like it just, he's grown. He's grown a ton over the past himself as a leader over the past 2 or 3 years,
Mm.
which has been really cool to see.
Mm. Yeah, I have a group of two brothers, well, a family, but two brothers. The one took second in the state this year. The older one took third in the state, but he should have won states. He just got injured for wrestling. And the older one is a mean motherfucker, like a tough guy. He'd beat people up. I shit you not, when he was 8 years old, they wrestled one of our interns, and he's like 18 now. That's how long they've been here. They wrestled one of our interns, pinned him down, and while the intern was on his back, this 8-year-old took his foot and scraped his forehead. Like, that's how mean this kid is, right? And he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's tough. And his little brother, like, he's a sweetheart. Like, we joke he breastfed until he was 10 years old, right? Like, but he's the nicest kid in the world. Nicest kid in the world. Sweetheart of a human. But for a little bit, started becoming arrogant, started becoming his older brother. And it doesn't suit him. I said, dude, like, you are you. And you're going to do better. Just be you. Don't worry about being them. Don't worry about it. I understand, like, you look up to him. He's your big brother. Like, who doesn't look up to the big brother, especially when the big brother's a savage? But, like, you could still be you and succeed and surpass. Like, you don't have to be anyone else. You know, I think that's even with me. Like, I went and I interned for Buddy Morris, who's a strength coach at Arizona with the Arizona Cardinals. I interned for him when I was in my early 20s. And Buddy Morris says, motherfucker has tattoos all over his body, shaved head, and never wears sleeves and rides a Harley. Bro, for 3 years, I listened to the same music he did and cut off the sleeves of all my fucking t-shirts and called everyone motherfucker. You know what I mean? Until, like, slowly, you know, you start figuring out who you are. And then I became Gandhi, but like, but like, it's everyone's process. And I think the reason why I ask those questions, what do you do better? What do you do worse? Is to have that type of perspective where you can look at things and say, this is where they're better. Do I need to improve on this? Or this is where I'm worse. And even as strength coaches, like, what are we really, really good at? Like, well, you're really, really good at sales, like, or you're really, really good at training people, or whatever it is. Like, lean into that, you know? I don't know. That's just where my mind goes with these things.
Well, I'm going to, I guess, give my framework of thinking through it, I guess. And I agree with all of that, because I think that too many times people get wrapped up into thinking that they need to be somebody that they're not. However, that's more of in my opinion, an operating system rather than an app. So think of your operating system on your phone. It's an operating system. You're either using Android, Apple, or if you're in another country, something else. That operating system, your own operating system, you don't have to try to change and adjust to become a different operating system. However, the different apps on your phone that allow you to be more efficient, to save more time, to be better, to have fun, all these things, those apps are skills. And those skills you're gonna have to have. Like, if I took a phone, an operating system with an iPhone, but there was nothing on there, I don't have iMessage, I don't have phones, I don't have emails or anything like that, it's pointless. So I could be the nicest person in the world, or I could be a complete dickhead. If I don't have skills, it doesn't matter. If I don't have a way to actually build something, it doesn't matter. So if I want to be successful and I'm great at training, but I can't influence people and I can't show them the value of what I have, and I don't have the ability to overcome their own insecurities and beliefs and issues with a client, then it doesn't matter how good of a trainer I am. You will always be capped by the fact that your app system is broken and you are missing apps. And so when I think about that, it's like, okay, cool. Your operating system doesn't have to change. However, you need to be able to acquire new skills. Otherwise, you're going to wake up one day and realize I wasted this operating system that God gave me and my own inherent talents. And I didn't go out and acquire the skills that would allow me to help more people or achieve whatever it is that I want to do.
Sure. And these apps we have unlimited memory, and we can adopt any app we want. And talking about then the skills, Cal, so when you first came in then as CEO, what was the first skill that you felt like you were lacking or needed to be worked on?
Time management.
Right.
Because I went from really being operating and kind of doing the role of CEO for one company, and now I am managing 3. And I knew the ins and outs of them. Well, 2 really, because we didn't even start gymmotors.com for a while. So I needed to learn that skill of operating, of like being able to operate those. So I think time management was the first thing. And then after that, the one thing that I constantly go after is clear communication And the thing that I can always improve on is just clear communication and continuing to influence and inspire our team and hold them accountable. Like that is it. It's just making sure that we are doing what we say we're going to do and that we are fulfilling on our expectations, exceeding those, and also moving the ball along. And like, it's my job to protect the culture that we've created through our core tenets and what we believe in. And it's my job to keep pushing the business forward. And that's anytime I make a mistake, it's always a people thing now. Before it was like a tactical thing. Like I didn't say this thing on a sales call and I should have closed them. Now it's I hired the wrong person, or I didn't onboard them the right way, or I wasn't clear with my expectations, or I didn't get back to them with feedback quickly, or I wasn't clear enough with my feedback. Right? It's always that stuff. It's the gray area.
So let me ask you, I struggle with this with clients, with friends. I'm very staccato. Like I come off, I'm a unique cat and pretty aggressive. How do you hold people accountable without that in a positive way? Because everyone has their guard up and they have a tendency to get defensive. And, you know, you deal with a bunch of different people. How do you go about holding someone accountable to things that they were supposed to do without them shutting down?
You have to come back to first before you get into anything, especially if it's deep feedback. So let's talk about like deep feedback. Like simple feedback would be like, hey, great job on this presentation. Do you mind if I help you make this better next time? And then it's like, cool, here's a couple things. Or, hey, on this one thing, great idea, by the way. This is fantastic. What did you learn from it? Here's some of the suggestions that I have, blah, blah, blah. But if we're talking about like deep feedback, like those uncomfortable conversations that you have to have, the first step, in my opinion, is getting buy-in and agreements on top level things first. So it's like, do we both agree that our goal here and our vision here at GymLaunch is to help gym owners reach more people, change more lives, and build wildly profitable businesses? Yes or no? Because if we can't agree on that, it doesn't matter what feedback I give. It doesn't matter what happens. We're already going separate ways. So let's get that agreement first. And the next agreement would be, great. And do you understand and agree that how we do that is through our core tenets, where we grow or die? We don't sugarcoat it. We have humility, right? All 6 of our core tenets, we go through them. Do you agree that this is how we act and these are the behaviors that we have and these are instilled the beliefs in which we do? Great. Okay, we have that. Now, the issue right here, now once we have those agreements, then it's like going into the way that you are doing this, or the way that you are communicating with your team, or the way that you are communicating with clients is not in alignment with our core tenets, right? You are showing up arrogant and not thinking about the client first. So we're lacking in have humility, right? We're lacking in not doing the boring work. We're skipping little things. We're just assuming stuff is happening, right? Then it just goes into those. And then it's just straight up conversation because we're adults. And like my goal always is to try to get buy-in rather than try to tell people, but there's also different seasons in the business too. There's also seasons where if you're running fast, like we're in startup mode on GymLaunch or on gymowners.com, we really don't have time to pussyfoot around. It's like, no, this shit needs to get done or we're way behind. And it's like, here's where we're trying to go. We've aligned on this. This is what needs to happen. We're either doing this or we're not, right? Like I had a conversation with our CTO the other day. He gave an update and we're way off on one of the things that is really important. And we had conversations about this 2 quarters ago. And I was like, part of it's on me for not making sure that, again, verification and accountability throughout the process. And this goes back to managing time because we have GymCon, we've got GymLaunch and trying to work on that stuff. But, you know, I had a conversation with him. I was like, we knew that this was a problem before. And I was like, do I need to be the person that is always telling you, right, that this needs to happen? And our CTO, by the way, is brilliant. He's exceptional. This is just an example of this. And it came up and it's like, this is a direct conversation. We don't have time to just kind of like worry about feelings, worry about anything else, because I already knew we're aligned. We already know what we want to do. This is it. Now it's like, let's make sure that this doesn't happen again. And a lot of it also depends on the person you're talking to. Because like, Mike, I could just punch you in the face and you'd be like, thanks, dude. I needed that. And like, you could do the same to me. Because like, I don't have any, I just like, give me the feedback. I want the worst stuff. Don't tell me how good I am. Don't tell me where I'm doing well. I want to know where I suck because I want to get better. And I think high performers, A players are that way. But then there's also other people, right, on the team that you need to take a different approach and you need to get their buy-in.
Yeah, so you do a lot of connect before correct as well with a lot of your, yeah. So this is an argument that I shouldn't say an argument. This is a tactic that I need to learn, especially with dealing with my wife. Like she's very big into connect before correct, where she calls me autistic, because I'm just like, hey, here's the data. Like, what are we gonna do with it? And it like doesn't bother me, but my wife is incredibly empathetic, and like emotion and connection is everything to her. So the connect before correct, like shit, I'm constantly working on that. And I need to work on saying all these things without saying but you did this or but you did that. Like, hey, I appreciate this, but, or I appreciate, and I watched you do it. You say, and this as well, without the negative connotation with it. Like these are all things for all walks of life too.
Can I talk about the framework that I think through on this? And maybe
Yeah.
this will help some people, because we
Please.
work with athletes a lot, and I think the people that listen probably work with athletes. Here's how I think about life in general, and is that everyone's heard about probably like infinite games and like game theory and all this stuff. But like when I think about life, it's just a series of games or games within games. But here's the thing about games. I have to understand first what game I'm playing. I have to understand the rules to the game. And I have to, once I understand that, I also have to understand what winning looks like in that game. And so let's say my relationship with my wife, our marriage, that is one game. Me being a father to my kids is another game, but each one in and of itself is a separate game because they have different personalities and different things. And there's different goals with each one. In business, different game. I have to understand the rules of the game, and then I have to understand what winning looks like. And then I have to set my ego aside. And if I truly say that I want to win at the game, then I need to be willing to play a winning game. And I need to change my behavior to win that game, regardless of what I think is right. It doesn't matter at that point, because when I'm dealing with other humans, I have to understand that their perception or what they think, they may be thinking about this in a totally different way. And maybe in their mind, this game is different. I could be thinking I'm playing football when someone else is thinking they're playing basketball. And if we do that, then we're all fucked, right? Because like we're never going to create any connection. We're never going to move forward, and nothing's ever going to happen. And so for me, I think about it that way. And so when people are like, man, I'm beating my head against the wall, why won't people understand me? Why won't do that? It's because you're playing a different game than everybody else. And you need to learn how to play the game to win rather than play your own game.
I love that. I love that, Cal. And also just because I'm wary of our time, because me and Mike could chat with you. Well, I know Mike chats to you probably hours a week anyway. But you mentioned about, the listeners, a lot of them are training athletes. As Mike said earlier on, a lot of them are struggling to make money. What's that kind of financial advice you have for those coaches that really want to be in S&C, want to work with athletes? They know that's their gig, but they're struggling to make money.
Two things. One, most strength and conditioning coaches don't brag about themselves enough, and you have to.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think most people publicly talk about how good they are. Perfect example. There was an Olympic athlete that was a GymLaunch client for a long time, got to know them really, really well. She was a softball pitcher for Oklahoma, All-American, pitched professionally, and pitched for the Canadian national team 3 years, three different Olympics. Okay. Stud. Never mentioned it in ads, never mentioned it in their gym, never talked about it. Ever. Because she didn't think it was that big of a deal or that it was relevant to other people. I played professional baseball, never mentioned it in my first gym. Didn't even mention it in my second gym until after Alex was like, he pulled me aside basically virtually and said, you're a fucking idiot. Like, do it. And so, and also the other thing, like in our gym, you probably do this, Mike, but like we took banners and flags and pennants from every athlete I ever worked with if they ever played a professional with a professional team, I took a pennant or a flag, and I got a pennant or a flag from every college that every athlete that I ever worked with, and I hung them up in my wall or in my gym. And so every single one. So it's literally all across the entire thing. And you see these and people walk in and they're like, what are those? That's incredible. That's really cool. And I'm like, yeah, each one of those represents an athlete that I've worked with. And they're like, oh, shit. And like, I just don't think enough strength and conditioning coaches, they spend most of their time talking about the science of it rather than talking about the end result and what they've been able to do. So that's one, is like, you can brag about the results that you've done. Like actually talk about those. No one cares about the science. Like no one does. As an athlete, I didn't. I just wanted to be better on the field. And if I'm Gen Pop, I definitely don't. I just want to look better naked. That's it. And so on the flip side, on the next thing, number two, and these are the only two that I would say, is just raise your prices. That's it. Just charge more.
So, but let's like go a bit more into the nuance of that, charging more. You're talking like just straight away, what? 20% up your costs, 100% up your costs, find where people start to push back, or is there?
Yeah, good rule of thumb is if you're closing at 70% or higher right now of people that walk in the door, then you need to raise your prices, and then you might drop a little bit. But if you raise your prices and your closing percentage stays the same, do it again. And you can depends on what your pricing is. If I say 20% for someone who's charging $100, that's not enough. Like you should probably double it, right? Or 50% minimum. If you're selling PT packages or strength and conditioning packages of $3,000, then I would say raise it 33%, add an extra grand, right? And so it just depends on where you're at. But I would say a minimum of 30%.
What's the most you've ever heard of any of the clientele going through GymLaunch? What they charge? Like one to one, let's say.
Yeah. So I had a package that was $10,000 that I did. And usually I think the most I ever heard someone do was a all-in $20,000 package for a year. And they only did, I think, 2 personal training sessions a week.
Yeah.
With the person.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Which isn't a lot. There's a lot of other people that charge way more. So,
yeah. Sure.
So you said you had a gym that trained athletes, and then you started going more towards Gen Pop. Now I have a gym. Majority of my clientele is athletes, and we're working on growing our Gen Pop. What advice would you give to strength coaches or gym owners, I should say, that are just training athletes?
You have to be really, really good, and you have to be really good across multiple sports in order to keep a sustainable reoccurring revenue. You have to, because this obviously with athletes, and by athletes, unless you have professional contracts and you're working with professional athletes, like Mike, I know you do it as well. It ebbs and flows. And so it's very hard to have consistent revenue. That's the reason why I went Gen Pop, because Gen Pop, you can get consistent revenue. And if you're trying to make that work, you have to move away from performance does matter, but you have to move away from thinking, I got to optimize for that 1%, for that half a second, for that millisecond, for that 1 extra pound. Like I got to stop trying to optimize for that and keep it so simple and actually make it really, really fun. I got to make it fun for Gen Pop. And when you do that, the way I think about a gym that does athletes, and Mike, we've talked about this, it's like your Gen Pop can be your reoccurring revenue or your base foundational financial model that allows you to go out and play. And now your play time is with your athletes, but financially I'm set. I have my base layer. I'm good. I'm making $100,000 a year take home from my foundational athlete, or like my foundational program, which would be my Gen Pop. They're rarely going to leave. They love me. It's consistent. They're willing to pay for it. But then you have your athletes on top. That's fun. And that's icing on the cake. And you can make a lot more from that too. But again, it ebbs and flows.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think, I talk to we have interns every quarter, every semester we have interns, and I ask them, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to do this. I want to have train athletes, and I want to do rehab on athletes. I said, that's such a small population and it's all seasonal. And like, dude, I'm not tooting my own horn. I don't know many coaches that do what I do. They like from a money perspective, from what they generate, I don't know many. And even I started an adult program. Like my recommendation for everyone that specializes in sports and training athletes and they own a brick and mortar location, like you're stupid not to, because clearly you are qualified to be able to do so. Just
more qualified than most people, by the way.
Yep. Go and do it. It's like, it's so silly to me. And I get help because it's completely different. Like I remember, I'll never forget my first consultation with GymLaunch. They said, "Oh, what's your close rate?" I said, "Close rate, 100%." What do you mean 100%, Mike? What do you mean? Like I turn people away. Like sometimes if they're too annoying in text messages, I'm like, I'm just not answering them anymore. Like I have 100%.
You're like a contractor. You're like a contractor.
And they said, "Oh, so you've never done any cold acquisition?" I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about, cold?" But I never advertised. I've never advertised for athletes. Like virtually ever for anything. Like we've had a couple of ads just playing with them here and there. And you ready for this? I think I spent $300 on an ad once, and I got that week, I got like $1,600 or $2,000, $1,600, $2,000, $2,500 like that week. And I was like, all right, good. Ad paid for itself. We're good. What a schmuck. I should have kept running the fucking ad. You know what I mean? That's how,
maybe.
But like, that's how I looked at things. And I never had any cold leads. When we first started running ads, it was before GymLaunch for adults. I had someone sign up, give me their information, set an appointment, talk to them on the phone, and they're supposed to be here for the appointment. I called them up. She picked up the phone and said, hi, who's this? I said, oh, it's Mike. You have an appointment. And they hung up. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, I didn't understand like what. Yeah, it's a different world. It's an entirely different world, but it is a reliable acquisition system, and it's a way to actually build value in a company. And if you ever wanted to sell, how are you going to sell based off of a referral only company? You have no reliable source of acquisition. How are they going to replicate it?
Exactly. Which means you're stuck with it. So there's 3 ways it's funny. I was on a call with someone who owns a similar business in the space, and he put it this way, and it's true. There's 3 ways businesses end, right? You die and it ends, right? You go bankrupt, or you sell. Right? Like, and by die means the business dies and you walk away, which is also bankrupt too, or you sell. And so that's it. Yep. And you also got to think about that too when you're doing it and trying to set it up. And that's what we try to do at GymLaunch, obviously, is try to teach business principles, not just fads and trends, but true business principles that give you the greatest chance of success.
So, and another plus with GymLaunch, I have a friend who owns an apparel company that doubles every year. Start off at 500, then he's at $1 million, then he's at 2 million. He's at 4 million right now. He's about to eclipse like $5 or $6 million. And I have conversations with him regularly, and I broke down, the one conversation we had was about sales and what he needed to do in order for like certain things, finances to work out. My business doesn't touch $5, $6, $7 million, doesn't sniff it, but I was able to advise him. He said to me, he goes, where the hell did you learn this? Like no one's ever said this to me before. Why do you look at it so clearly?
I'm going to have to hop in just a second, but I want to talk about this right now, but this is so important. This is the exact example of you have to be very careful what vehicle you choose based on your goal. Because skill sets matter, because you have more skills when it comes to certain things. With that, probably business minded, you could probably go into that business. You could probably learn how to run that type of business, and you could probably blow it up, and you could probably do the exact same thing, if not faster. And the reason why is because you've learned the business fundamentals. You understand how business works. You understand how people think. You understand the choreography of sales. You understand how to attract people. You understand how to keep people. You understand business fundamentals. And if you understand that, then it's just a matter of which vehicle am I going to choose. And if you choose the wrong vehicle, if I'm trying to make a cross-country trip and I hop on a scooter, it's going to take me for fucking ever to get there, right? But if I hop in a private jet, I just hop on, I'm over on the other side. You got to be careful which vehicle you choose, right? And that's the thing I also want to say is like, you got to sleep in the bed that you made. If you're a strength and conditioning coach and you're bitching and moaning about the money that you're making, well, I'm sorry. You just got to look yourself in the mirror and just be like, you chose the wrong vehicle if money's your goal. You just chose the wrong vehicle, because you could go out and do a lot of other things. And if you acquire the right skill set, make a lot more money, a lot faster and a lot more sustainable. But if your goal is to change more lives and you truly enjoy it, great. Now it's like, how do I maximize this vehicle? How do I take this scooter and then like juice it up, or maybe trade it in for something else to get me across the country faster?
I love it. Cale, dude, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much, more than you know. Anything, dude. Yeah, you're the fucking best, bro. Anything you want to say before you bounce?
No, man, I just appreciate you. And for those of you that listen to this, I have the utmost respect for Mike, the utmost respect. And Brooker, we just met. If you're associated with this guy, you obviously have my utmost respect as well. So I just really appreciate you guys. I'm honored to be on here, very humbled. And hopefully there's some value for anyone that's listening, because that was my goal, is just to bring some value.
You're the man.
No doubt, buddy. Cheers, Cal. We'll get you back on, please,
Thanks,
mate.
Guys. Appreciate it, guys. All right. See you guys. I got to hop.
Cheers, mate.
How great was that, right?
What a dude. What a
legend.